5 hours earlier, before anyone in Moscow or Astrakhan knew what was coming, 14 drones armed with explosives equal to 40 kilograms of TNT each lifted off from launch sites deep inside Ukraine. Their departure was rapid, disciplined, and precise, like a squadron of invisible bombers climbing into the night sky. They weren't ordinary drones. They were built for one mission only: to fly hundreds of kilometers, navigate hostile airspace, and strike a single target with devastating accuracy. That target was a Russian cargo vessel moored in the Caspian Sea. For days, Ukrainian and Allied satellites had been locked onto it, observing every movement, every shift at anchor, every attempt to mask its presence. The ship's captain, confident that he was far beyond the reach of Ukraine's weapons, went about his duties unaware that his every move was being tracked in real time from space. When the signal came to launch, it came via those satellites, and the drones answered. The vessel in question was no ordinary freighter. Displacing 4,900 gross tons, it had been loaded to the brim with military cargo. On board sat nearly 5,000 tons of Iranian-supplied materiel, components for Shahed 136 and Shahed 238 drones, electrical systems, avionics modules, gyroscope sensors, navigation units, and crates of 122mm rocket ammunition. In battlefield terms, it represented weeks of Russian drone strikes, hundreds of drones waiting to be assembled, and a war chest of firepower meant to terrorize Ukrainian cities and frontline positions. The ship was the Port Olia 4, a 110-meter-long cargo vessel operating under Russian flag. Its captain had chosen his anchorage carefully. Instead of docking at Russia's Olia port on the Caspian Sea, where sabotage or prying eyes could present risks, he had anchored in the Vuhler-Don shipping canal, a narrow stretch inland. To him, it was the cautious choice, a way to reduce exposure. The Caspian felt safe. After all, it lay 800 kilometers from Ukraine's front lines. Who could reach him here? But Ukrainian intelligence had been preparing for this exact moment. The timing of the shipment, the route it would take, even its anchorage patterns had been mapped days in advance. The operation was built on multiple layers of detection. Japanese commercial satellites using synthetic aperture radar provided the first key pieces of data. Unlike optical satellites that rely on clear skies, SAR can see through cloud cover, track ships at night, and pick up vessels even when their transponders are switched off. Analysts pored over radar reflections. They compared hull shape and anchor chain positioning, confirming the Port Olia 4 was waiting offshore. Satellite passes stacked on top of one another revealed its drift angle and anchorage window. 4 to 6 hours, more than enough time for a carefully orchestrated strike. Signal intelligence provided the second layer. Communications, silence, and radar emissions showed the ship was running in low-profile mode, trying not to draw attention. But this silence also betrayed it. Ukrainian planners realized they had a window for a multi-axis, single-wave attack. The objective was clear: do not detonate the volatile cargo. Instead, sink the ship in a controlled manner, submerging thousands of drone parts and rockets beneath the Caspian Sea. For this mission, Ukraine selected a package of long-range kamikaze UAVs based on the UJ-26ER platform. Built with composite airframes, their radar signatures were minimal. Cruising at speeds of 150 to 180 kilometers per hour, they were fast enough to cover long distances, yet slow enough to skim beneath radar detection. Guidance systems used a GNSS/INS hybrid, backed up by electro-optical confirmation during terminal approach. Even if GPS signals were jammed, the drones could still find their mark. The warheads were in the 40-kilogram class, some fragmentation, some semi-penetrating, carefully chosen for different effects, tearing open thin deck plates, rupturing ventilation shafts, fracturing beams, and puncturing waterline strips. With added fuel capacity, the UJ-26ER could fly up to 1,200 kilometers, easily enough to reach the Caspian. 14 drones were assigned to this strike package. 12 attackers, 2 relays. At 5:25, synchronization was finalized. The attack plan was divided into 4 axes. One group would approach from the stern's starboard side, targeting the engine room ventilation shafts and stern deck. Another would come from the bow port side, striking the bridge and forward compartments. A third group was tasked with hitting the midsection, cracking the beams around cargo hatches and opening the waterline to destabilize the ship. The final pair were diversion drones, ready to unleash explosive barriers if tugboats or patrol vessels attempted a rescue. At 5:45 a.m., the drones roared into the sky, their multi-stage launch sequence unfolding across Ukrainian fields. Their 5-hour flight was carefully choreographed. Flying low, just 20 to 60 meters above the sea, they blended into radar clutter. 2 flew higher at 300 to 500 meters, relaying signals and maintaining visual control. To port security radars, their small composite bodies and slow speeds looked like harmless echoes, logged as low priority. At 10:28 local time, the first drone struck. Its warhead exploded against the aft upper deck, blowing open thin plates around the engine ventilation shaft. Fire tore through cable trays, shorting damaged control circuits. Fuel pumps and generators sputtered, firefighting systems weakened. Within seconds, the second drone smashed into the starboard waterline, partially penetrating the hull and unleashing flooding into lower compartments. The third and fourth drones followed swiftly. They slammed into the midsection, one into a hatch cover, another into the port waterline strip. The impacts fractured connections, sending heavy smoke and burning debris across the deck. The ship listed to starboard. On the bridge, alarms blared, and the captain declared an emergency. Port security scrambled 2 tugboats and a patrol craft to intervene. But before they could arrive, the 5th drone hit. At 10:31, it slammed into the bow near the control room. Electrical panels short-circuited, plunging the bridge into darkness. Main power failed. Systems switched to battery backup. The Ukrainian drones were built for this. Each carried pre-programmed inertial guidance paths in case of GNSS jamming. Warhead effects were varied deliberately, some detonating with fragmentation, others with delayed fuses to punch cavities through the hull and fracture internal beams. Between 10:33 and 10:36, the 6th and 7th drones struck. They ripped a massive tear into the starboard hull, accelerating water intake. At 10:38, with fires spreading and compartments flooding, the crew abandoned ship. Lifeboats splashed into the water as smoke poured from the stern. 2 Ukrainian drones were shot down by Russian defenders, but it was too little, too late. At 10:41, the 8th drone hit the lower midship belt, worsening the list to 7 degrees. Flooding pumps were overwhelmed. The 9th and 10th drones followed, striking the stern shaft tunnel. Propulsion lines ruptured, spilling fuel oil beneath the deck. Flames roared higher. The 11th and 12th drones unleashed barrier blasts along the tugboat approach lanes, blocking rescue attempts. Relay drones continued transmitting telemetry and recording the unfolding destruction. Damage unfolded like a sequence of dominoes. First came the power loss, then pump system failure, followed by uncontrolled flooding. Listing increased, structural fatigue spread. By 10:50, the ship was mortally wounded. Within hours, it capsized. By 14:32, satellite images showed the Port Olia 4 submerged beneath the Caspian, smoke still curling into the air. Russia tried to downplay the incident, initially claiming minor damage, but soon, Photos of the wreck leaked online. Open-source analysts geolocated the images using coastal architecture, cranes, and even light poles to confirm the wreck's exact location. Satellite imagery confirmed the smoke plume visible from 10 kilometers away. On August 14th, Ukraine's General Staff confirmed what the world already knew. The Port Olia 4 had been carrying Iranian UAV components and ammunition, and it had been sunk in a coordinated Ukrainian strike. Follow-up images on August 19th showed Russia's salvage attempts. The scale of the loss was staggering. A single Shahed production set weighs around 200 kilograms. With 5,000 tons aboard, the Port Olia 4 carried enough for hundreds of drones. Each Shahed drone carries a 40-kilogram warhead. In total, the cargo represented more than 12,000 kilograms of explosives. But it wasn't just numbers. Without avionics, navigation systems, and power units, Russia couldn't assemble these drones at scale. The strike didn't just sink cargo, it sank Moscow's plans for weeks of bombardment. Strategically, the attack shattered assumptions. Russia had believed the Caspian was safe. Now, Ukraine proved otherwise. An inland sea, once thought untouchable, was suddenly within reach. The insurance market reacted immediately, raising war risk premiums. AIS blackouts increased, ships sailed under false call signs, convoy methods slowed port turnover. Each adaptation exposed new vulnerabilities. Overland alternatives left longer trails. Transshipment through multiple points drove up costs. Diplomatically, ripples spread through the region. Caspian coastal states called for emergency maritime safety meetings. For the first time, the Caspian was no longer a rear area sanctuary. It was a contested battle space. From Kiev's perspective, the strike was a masterstroke. It extended the war far beyond the Black Sea, forcing Moscow to rethink logistics and defensive postures. By sinking one vessel, Ukraine not only eliminated thousands of drones, but also disrupted the tempo of Russia's air campaign. For Russia, the implications were sobering. Without Iranian parts, Shahed drone production faltered. Nightly barrages against Ukrainian cities slowed. Supply chains that once seemed secure now felt exposed. The perception of safety was gone. The sinking of the Port Olia 4 wasn't just the loss of a ship. It was a psychological blow, a logistical rupture, and a demonstration that no rear area was beyond Ukraine's reach. It proved that in modern war, distance and geography mean less than resolve, precision, and intelligence. What followed was uncertainty. If Ukraine could strike once, it could strike again. Every ship bound for Russia now sailed under a cloud of fear, not knowing when or where the next swarm of drones might appear. And that uncertainty, more than the wreck itself, was Ukraine's real victory.